status perkembangan
Status
terbaru.
ni, yes.
Seperti yang mana kita semua maklum, seperti yang kita semua maklum, Sirul telah pun membuat permohonan early this year, awal tahun ini, untuk protection visa diisukan kepada beliau, memandangkan status beliau yang berada dalam tahanan di Australia, ya, oleh pihak immigration. Jadi susulan daripada itu, pihak Authority Immigration telah pun memberi interview, temu bual dengan dia, lebih kurang pada penghujung bulan November, 25 hari bulan November, bulan lepas. Dan kami dimaklumkan bahawa status proses tersebut masih berjalan lah. Ya, jadi dia sampai takat situ, apakah langkah seterusnya dan proses seterusnya itu kita serahkan kepada pihak Immigration Australia untuk menentukan daripada tahap ini dan seterusnya lah. Ya.
Maksudnya Sirul masih lagi dalam tahanan?
Sirul masih lagi dalam tahanan, yes.
Okay. So proses visa,
tahanan immigration, sorry.
So proses visa dia maksudnya macam mana?
Well, dia punya social visit visa, yang mana dia masuk ke negara Australia menggunakan social visit visa, telah pun tamat ataupun luput lah. Jadi proses seterusnya ialah untuk dia memohon untuk satu protection visa dalam satu kelas yang kita panggil protection visa di bawah Akta Immigration lah, Australia. Jadi dia masih dalam tahanan, yes.
Berapa lama akan tahan?
Masa itu terpulang kepada proses permohonan protection visa beliau lah. Saya tak dapat memberitahu sebab ini adalah perkara dalam bidang kuasa pihak Immigration Australia.
So langkah seterusnya kan?
Ada pihak tuan apa?
Langkah seterusnya.
Langkah seterusnya kita kena tunggu dulu tengok apakah keputusan ataupun proses selanjutnya yang diperlukan oleh pihak Immigration Australia, dan kita akan membantu daripada segi perundangan bersama-sama dengan peguam-peguam Australia beliau yang sedang menangani kes ini pada takat inilah. Dan peguam Australia juga hadir semasa interview tersebut bersama-sama dengan beliau, dan saya pasti setiap langkah yang diperlukan, yang wajar diambil, sedang diambil oleh pihak peguam-peguam beliau di Australia.
So 25 hari bulan dia mohon.
Ya.
Dan maksudnya macam dalam tempoh mungkin ada jangkaan berapa lama sebelum untuk.
Ya, bukan dia mohon pada 25 hari bulan itu. Dia telah mohon seawal tahun ini, selepas dia ditahan. Permohonan melalui peguam-peguam Australia telah pun dibuat. Ya, dan proses telah pun berjalan. Tapi of course proses itu akan mengambil masa mengikut masa yang ditentukan oleh pihak Immigration Australia. 25 hari bulan November itu adalah temu bual susulan daripada permohonan yang telah pun dibuat sebelum ini. Jadi we can see that as the first step ataupun langkah pertama yang diambil oleh pihak Immigration untuk membenarkan beliau satu temu bual lah. Ya.
Selalunya berapa tempoh masa?
Dia tak ada satu tempoh yang peruntukkan di bawah undang-undang. Jadi ini adalah satu proses permohonan yang saya rasakan kalau apa-apa maklumat yang diperlukan oleh pihak Immigration Australia, mereka akan sama ada maklumkan kepada peguam-peguam Australia ataupun dia akan mengambil langkah-langkah melalui temu bual dan sebagainya lah, yang masih dalam proses sekarang ni.
Yeah, Datuk, are you privy of the interview content? What he told the interviewer, and I mean in term for him to gain the visa?
Yes, I am privy to the interview contents, but this is not something I can disclose or talk about because that's obviously a matter that is within the jurisdiction of Australia, and it's
Kenapa dia perlukan protection tu daripada pihak?
No, is a class of visa yang dipanggil protection visa. The word protection visa tu should not be confused with the idea that he's seeking protection. Let's be clear, it's just a class of visa that's called protection for those people who have already overstayed or have passed the stage of the social visit visa having expired. They are now applying to a class to say that I would like to continue staying in the country and I meet the criteria. Saya memenuhi kriteria. Beliau memenuhi kriteria yang diperlukan untuk terus tinggal dan diisukan satu visa berdasarkan visa protection. It's a class of visa protection.
Visa protection tu untuk berapa lama pula dia mungkin?
There is no time limit to a visa protection, as far as we are.
You can stay in
aware.
Australia as fast as you want.
Well, I'm not sure whether this is a protection visa that will be issued periodically, or it is something that will be issued on a semi-permanent or permanent basis, or on an indefinite basis. I think that is a matter of the act itself does not actually stipulate what is the duration of the visa.
Which means that he won't be in detention after the visa application.
That is correct. Yes, that is the hope, that he will be released from detention and is free to be at large in Australia during the pendency of the protection visa. Yes, so we are working towards that. Yeah.
Sejauh mana rasa dia berjaya dapatkan visa tu?
Inshallah, of course there is going to be one or two obstacles. Obviously, given that his position in Australia is that he has already been adjudged by the federal court, the superior court, the apex court of this country. Mahkamah tertinggi dalam negara ini telah pun mendapati beliau bersalah, and obviously that is going to have some sort of impact on his application, which is why the process is not a clear-cut process. Because I must explain this, Sirul Azhar Umar finds himself in a situation between clear laws, so he is in a bit of a no man's land. Australia will have or may find certain reluctance to send him back, because there is obviously the position that Australia has taken with respect to the death penalty, to surrender a person for the purpose of facing the death penalty. Is a matter of a stand that has already been taken by Australia. So whilst they cannot send him back, or may be reluctant to send him back, they also cannot let him at large unless immigration allows him a certain kind of visa, under a certain class of visa, for him to be at large. So he cannot, he is in detention pending that process being resolved one way or another. Yeah.
Sejak ditahan sampai sekarang, berapa kali dah tuan berjumpa? Mungkin sempat ada jumpa dengan
Yes, of course. We've met him several occasions. Well, I can't really say, maybe 4 or 5 times maybe.
So kali terakhir bila?
Just recently, we went to see him recently during the school holidays. Baru ni, just about a week ago, I think, a week and a half ago.
How's his condition?
He's okay. He's all right. Detention center there treats everybody very well. It's a very comfortable place to stay, and I liken it more to a situation of a house arrest rather than a detention center. Maybe in the sense that we are used to. So it's a comfortable place.
So it's not stress or distress in whatever manner?
Well, not in a sense that I can perceive. He looks to be all right, but of course the fact that you are detained and you're not free to move around is already in itself a source of stress, isn't it? There is obviously a large amount of stress associated with the fact that he is not at large. He is not free to go. So the fact of the detention itself, I think, is already a source of stress. I think it's naive for me to say that he's not under some sort of stress, because he is obviously being detained.
So tuan, dengan status dia sebagai yang dijatuhkan hukuman
Saya
so dia diletakkan berasingan ke atau bersama dengan
Tahanan lain?
bersama-sama dengan tahanan-tahanan lain. So there is no special room or special detention place for him, or they are free to mix around. So yeah.
Tuan, is he expected to make any more revelation, after he's successfully gained the protection visa?
I don't know what you mean by revelation, but I've always said that whatever it is that Sirul is going to say, if he says it, if he decides one day to say it, he would say it under advisement from his lawyers, obviously after being given full legal advice as to the impact and ramification of what he is going to say. And he will certainly do it under oath. That means as part of a judicial process or part of a legal process. That's what we expect him to say or do under those circumstances.
Tuan, kita nak tahu,
Yes.
ada tak apa-apa tindakan terhadap orang-orang yang mengganggu Sirul? Yang
Mungkin soalan dia ialah sama ada ataupun tidak orang yang mengganggu Sirul. I think that's the pertinent question. We have received information from Sirul that there have been several groups of people individuals who have tried to contact him. In fact, several people have gone to the detention center physically to try to get access to him, but of course he has declined to meet them. There are people who have obviously managed to call him. We know of people who have called him from overseas, and we also know that they have offered some kind of resolution to his problem, offered him something in terms of resolution or to help him, and also there's even been a call to ask him to remove his lawyers. Remove his lawyers who's obviously not doing a very good job. So these are the kinds of information that we have received over time from Sirul. We have evidence of that, and we are fully aware who these individuals and parties are. And at the appropriate time, we will address those issues, obviously through the legal process.
Siapa individu kalau
Can you classify who's the...
I am not at liberty at this moment to say who they are, and
Politicians.
well, obviously, as the farthest I will go is to say it's quite obvious that there are groups who are trying to, obviously trying to get to him with some promise of help, obviously hoping for some sort of a political advantage or a political benefit, perhaps from what he is expected to say, or perhaps of what they want him to say. I would go as far as to say that that is my personal reading of the matter from my conversations with my client. So I am certainly aware, we are certainly aware that there are these groups of people with an obvious political interest.
Are they harassing him in any way?
It depends on what you mean by the word harass. They are obviously, there's some overtures to him with respect to, oh, I can solve your legal problems. You better get rid of your lawyers, for example, on that basis. There have been overtures of that sort. What these people expect to get from an overtures of that sort, I'm not certain. But it doesn't take rocket science to figure out there must be something at the end of the tunnel, isn't it? So, if you ask me whether my personal opinion is there are certain political overtures to him, then my answer is yes.
Tuan, ada tak sesiapa tu cuba menghasut atau upah, kira macam dia cuba macam menghasut ataupun dakwaan untuk mengupah Sirul dalam menuduh Perdana Menteri terlibat dalam pembunuhan Abang Tuja?
Well, kalau soalan tu sama ada satu specific request. We're not aware of a specific request. Like I said, we are aware of overtures made to him or offers made to him to help him out. I'm not sure, as I said, what that is in expectation of, or perhaps it is just simply, through good-heartedness of, good Samaritans of the country. So I can't say. But he is certainly being accosted by groups of people with certain, obviously I can read a certain agenda in that.
Means until now.
Yes,
Until he's still receiving,
yes.
Yeah.
Up to recently, yes, correct.
Berapa lama boleh bertahan lagi tu?
Wallahu alam, I don't know. Yes.
Just to ask, how frequent, and then you say that he know about their intention, how they contact him? Through phone call, or just mail him?
Well, like I said earlier, those who actually tried to see him physically, by being physically present at the detention center. But of course, the procedure of the detention center is always to check with the detainee whether he wishes to see them or not. And Sirul has said that he does not want to see anybody. And but I'm also aware of telephone calls having been made where that has got through to him, and a telephone conversation has been had with him. And there was an offer to resolve his legal position in Australia. And there was an offer for him to remove his current lawyers who are representing him. So, those are the information we know.
Mungkin saya panggilan telefon tu ada daripada Malaysia dan ada daripada negara
Yeah.
ketiga.
So there are telephone calls. Ada panggilan telefon tu. Hasnal can add anytime he wants.
So far, what was his response? I mean, someone make him offer, some he declined to meet, but some get through him through phone. What was his response? I mean,
Well, I'm not going to say what my client's response is. I think that is a matter that he has told us in confidence, and I think that falls within the class of attorney-client privilege.
So he reject all the offer?
I'm sorry?
I mean, is it he reject all the offer given to him?
Well, I won't say whether he has declined it or he has not. Like I said, I'm not going to comment on what he said with respect to the offer that was made. But obviously, these calls were made from this country, from Malaysia, and some calls were made from overseas.
So berapa kerap panggilan dan pertemuan kehadiran?
The attempts to see him, I think, is quite often. I think that maybe 4, 5, or even 6 times. I think in the past. There was a particular call that was made that we know that was made from overseas. That particular call alluded to asking Sirul or persuading him to remove his lawyers. And that particular call also basically spoke about the possibility of helping him to resolve his legal situation and to offer him some sort of a legal solution to his problems in Australia. So,
Only his problems in Australia and not his current sentence in Malaysia, is that it?
well, I don't know if that's part of the large package that is being offered. But from what we were told by the client, it seems to be about his legal problems in Australia.
Can we
His
assume that
status,
it's
no?
persistently from one particular group? Or?
We can't conclude that.
We can't conclude that because, yeah, we can't really pinpoint to a particular group.
Tuan, bagaimana dengan ahli keluarga? Adakah pihak Tuan berhubung dengan ahli keluarga sebab ada juga pihak-pihak grup ni berjumpa dan
Ada.
Kita berjumpa dengan keluarga.
Dan ada juga grup-grup ni yang pergi berjumpa dengan ahli keluarga, yes. I'm aware of that as well. Yes. We have regular reports and from our client whenever that happens. And of course, whoever meets with Sirul ought to only meet him by permission of the lawyers in Australia, not even us. And I think there's a bit of a confusion as to the role that we are playing. This case is now being handled by eminent lawyers from Australia, who are not only very experienced but also very able. So I think that I have absolute confidence that they will do all that is necessary. Between us and them, we will of course discuss the matter. But I'm not here to discuss the legal strategy as to what we are going to do or not to do. That's outside my scope of discussion.
Sir, do you know the status of the government trying to get him back?
Okay, as far as we are concerned at the moment, I have no information that any extradition request has ever been made, because an extradition process begins with an extradition request. That is a specific request made by the requesting country, we call it, in this case Malaysia. Malaysia will have to make a request to Australia, and Australia will have to process that request and then put him through an extradition hearing, which will take place in Australia. But so far, I have no information that any extradition requests have been started or commenced, and there is a very simple reason for that. That is because under the extradition treaty with Australia, there are 2 restrictions to extradition. Number 1 is there is the overall restriction to extradition. He cannot be extradited back in order to face the death penalty. That is an absolute prohibition under the Extradition Act. There is another kind of extradition, shall I say, obstacle or limitation, in the sense that before even the requesting country can put in the requisition, the request, the country, in this case Australia, will have to consent to the request being made by Malaysia. So before even the request can be made, it must be consented to by Australia for them to receive that request, because that's how it is spelled out clearly under the extradition treaty. So there are very clear legal obstacles or impediments to the extradition process itself, and that may explain the reasons why. I cannot speculate, but it could explain the reasons why no extradition has thus far been brought. So let's get this very clear. It is not simply a decision of the Malaysian government not to bring the extradition. It is an operation of law and an impediment under law. Okay? Any other questions?
Yes, a little bit more about
Sure.
about the family. Have they been in constant communication with you, and how have they told you of the people coming to see them? Are they remaining steadfast in not in refusing the offers?
Let me put it this way. He has been advised by the Australian lawyers very clearly, and this advice was given in our presence. He has been clearly advised, and we have stated this to the media some time back, I think, as well, if you recall from some of the statements we've made. The advice is very clear, that the advice is that he ought not to speak. He should not speak about his case or about the process of his application to the media until the application and the process can be resolved. And that is a strict advice given by the Australian lawyers. Let me be very clear. That advice is not our advice. It is the advice of the Australian lawyers. We take that advice, we respect it, and we agree with it. Because strategically, it makes absolute sense that he does not speak to anybody right now. Because whatever he says, or alleged to have said, I think I should use that word rather, attributed to him by some people, could have a very serious implication as far as his application for his protection visa is concerned. I mean, yes, we can see that there is a direct connection between what is attributable to him and what he may or may not say within the confines of the proceedings in Australia. That is the thing that we must avoid at all costs. And our job here is to protect the interests of our client. So that has been misinterpreted before, and I must say this, it's been misinterpreted before to be some kind of a suspicious advice, if you like, that he does not speak to members of the media or he does not speak about certain matters. The reason that advice has been given by the Australian lawyers, and we agree with that advice, is because whatever he says cannot be controlled, cannot be verified. It can be easily attributable to him without being able to be verified, and it can have an impact, probably a very huge impact, on the process of his application in Australia. So I think that puts the matter very clearly. Our interest is only to preserve the sanctity of the process that he is facing in Australia, so that is not jeopardized in any way whatsoever. And that's the reason why we agree with the Australian lawyers' advice.
Final one.
Sure.
His lawyers in Australia are even preventing even officers from Malaysian government like PDRM from seeing him. So PDRM has never been able to see him during his
Detention.
Well, with respect to PDRM, we are not aware of any PDRM
Even requesting to meet him.
And the reason for that is actually very simple, because any application to see him is actually vetted by his lawyers, or actually comes to the knowledge of his lawyers. And of course, the detention center has a record of all that applications to see and who actually sees him. And so we are not aware of any meeting, even a request to meet him by the PDRM.
and so the people who wanted to see him just showed up at the front door and attempted to see him.
Yes. This is
wasn't a request
this is
at all.
just putting in the application as you arrive, so to speak, and then with the hope that he consents to see anybody. And so that has been the case so far. But the position has been taken by my client under advisement from his Australian lawyers that he does not wish to see anybody or speak to members of anybody who is unconnected with the process of his application in Australia. So,
Sir, can you enlighten us why, the reason that why he's possibly speak to the media or anyone else can jeopardize his chance of protection visa?
you want me to elucidate as to possibly why?
Yeah,
I see. I think if I get the question, it's asking how it might actually jeopardize. I think perhaps some people will be interested to know the reasons why. Well, let's go back simply to this. Let's go back to the question of his the defense that he put up in court in his own trial. Through the entire proceedings in the High Court, the Court of Appeal and the Federal Court, Sirul Azhar Omar has always maintained that he did not commit the crime. He maintained that he did not commit the murder. That was the defense that was put up. That was the statement that he made from the dock, if you recall, during his case, during the time of his defense. So having said that, that's been carried through two appellate courts. He has maintained that position. He maintains that position today. Now, I understand that there has been some statements speculating around that apparently there was some statement about him saying, allegedly, that he was given an instruction to do something, i.e. to carry out the crime. Now, if you put two and two together, you can already see that one contradicts the other, isn't it? How could you say that you did not commit the offense, put up that defense, go through three courts with that defense, having instructed your lawyers for 9 years that this is your defense, and then now have an alleged statement attributable to him to say, yes, I did it, but I did it albeit under instructions. Now, the two obviously can't stand one with the other, isn't it? So since it can't stand together, it doesn't sit comfortably, they're not bedfellows, you know, we have to go back to what is happening now in Australia. Now, I mentioned to you earlier that there is a very clear obstacle to his application for a protection visa, in the sense that he has already been found guilty by the apex court of another jurisdiction, right? So, going back to that, if ever he is going to have a chance in order to perhaps get his protection visa or be issued a protection visa, it will mean that the basis of the decision of the federal court, and I say maybe, I'm not certain if it will ever come to that or if it is necessary in terms of the procedure in Australia, but it may take some aspects of that, of whatever he has said, the evidence that supports it in court, it may have to be scrutinized, isn't it? In Australia, it may be. I'm not aware, and I can't really say that it will be. But if it were to be scrutinized, if you were to look at, if you have to go back to the basis of his claim that he did not commit the offense and the evidence that supports it, which may come under scrutiny in the Australian courts, maybe pursuant to this process, it is very clear any statement that he now says, if he now says, I committed the crime, albeit I did it under instructions, would certainly jeopardize the very position that he has taken earlier, isn't it? That he did not commit the crime. So if he is going to go in the process before Australia and say, I maintain that I did not commit the crime, the statements attributable to him that he did commit the crime, albeit under instruction, is now completely going to destroy the very basis of his application, isn't it? That doesn't take rocket science to figure that out.
So let's just clear this.
Yes.
He did not say that he committed the crime at all. I mean, he did not say that, he did not commit the crime, although under instructions. He never said that.
He never said that. He never said that through his entire court process. And he never said that through his entire instructions to us. So that is the reason why his defense was crafted in that fashion. He has always maintained that he did not commit the offense. When he used the word scapegoat, he used it in his statement to the court in the context that he was made a scapegoat, although he never committed the offense. That has been obviously misread, isn't it? To mean something else. So to answer your question as to why, what would be the possible reason that it might jeopardize the application in Australia, is simply because of that I've mentioned. And if he were to make any statement or anything, it will have to be, as I said, after being fully advised by his lawyers. If he wishes to make a statement, that of course is his prerogative, isn't it? You cannot stop him from making a statement. But any statement to have any value must be made under oath as part of a judicial process or judicial proceedings. Because otherwise, anybody can say that that statement is attributable to him, isn't it? My question to the public really is, how do you determine whether it is in fact attributable to him? You don't know that. So everybody is free to print and say, well, I just heard Sirul said this or Sirul said that, paraphrase him or taken out of context or taken a snippet of what he says and turn it around. No, those are clearly dangerous situations with respect to his application in Australia.
Tapi tu kalau kita pernah baca mengenai statement dalam satu pernyataan sebelum ni, Sirul pernah berkata demikian kepada ibunya, iaitu Sirah ni, dia cakap tindakan itu dilakukan atas arahan seseorang dan dia terpaksa mengikutnya. Itu macam mana?
Siapa yang kata tu? Ibu dia.
Mak dia bagi tahu.
No, like I said just now, I am aware that people have made this claim before.
Mak dia.
But like I said, unless and until that statement is made under oath, we are hearing that statement from somebody else. It doesn't matter who. It could be the mother, it could be the uncle, it could be the cousin, it could be his son, it could be any other person who has said, I've spoken to him. Now, how do you determine that when that person speaks and this person says this or that it is in fact that he is saying? How do you determine the context in which he is saying it? So this is not just a technical legal position. There is a very clear danger that this can be misinterpreted. And so that is why my concern is not whether he says something or not. My concern is, and our concern is to protect the sanctity of that process that he is now facing in Australia.
Dalam konteks perundangan Malaysia, mana dah sampai mahkamah persetujuan,
Yeah.
so tak ada lagi, kes ni takkan disemulakan kalau even apa dia cakap seperti ODT kata, kita akan buat siasatan semula dan juga
Sama ada pihak polis akan membuat siasatan semula ataupun tidak tu saya tak tahulah, itu prerogatif pihak polis. Tapi daripada segi perundangan, keputusan mahkamah yang paling tinggi di Malaysia ni, Mahkamah Persekutuan, menjadi satu keputusan yang konklusif lah terhadap apa-apa isu. Jadi keputusan yang konklusif itu perlu dihormati dalam sesuatu negara demokrasi, walaupun keputusan itu tidak berpihak kepada pihak kita. Jadi daripada segi perundangan memang tidak ada lagi proses yang boleh membuka semula persoalan isu undang-undang dan fakta sama ada dia telah melakukan kesalahan itu ataupun tidak. Hanya ada satu sahaja a residual application that sometimes is made, which is called the review application. And that review application, there is no time limit. And that review application always remains as a possibility. That review application we have already discussed with the Australian lawyers, and it is their opinion, and we agree that strategically, if at all, the review application ought not to be brought. If at all, and I'm not saying I will bring it. I'm saying if at all it is to be brought, it is not strategically correct to bring it now until the process of application in Australia is already exhausted, finished, exhausted and completed. And that is a matter of legal strategy. I hope you're not going to ask me to discuss the merits of that decision. I know there have been some statements that have been made about the reasons why there was no review that was brought, isn't it? Well, the answer is actually very simple. It's a legal strategy decided between lawyers here and lawyers in Australia.
Just to ask,
Yes.
has Australia ever granted a protection visa to a murder convict?
I can't say. I think that would be
Or
outside
any
of.
convict?
Yeah, I think that would certainly be outside of my area of expertise or knowledge. I think I would have to check that statement, that question with the Australian lawyers to find an answer.
Just to check again, since when Sirul declined to meet people, whether from Malaysia or
Since when? How do we put a time frame to that?
or since when the lawyer, whether both of you or the Australian lawyer advised him not to?
Well, I think that is always a standing advice. But I think it must have taken prominence when there were some allegations that he was going to make a statement. When that happened, I can't really recall, but there were some attempts by some parties actually to hold some sort of a live interview or something of that sort.
Telephone conversation.
Live telephonic conversation with him. I think that advice would have taken prominence at that point.
Sometimes
yes.
February or March.
But I can say that conversation, I mean, the advice is a standing advice from day one. Any other?
I mean, there are media reports. Reported give negatively about Sirul, which you perceive that might affect his chance for the protection visa. Are you guys going to challenge all these reports, saying that no, that is not what my clients have said?
A good question, but I would think that the simplest answer to that is unless that statement is made under oath, as I said, in some sort of a judicial or legal process.
But never media reports will inquire our interviewee to make under oath.
No media report requires
No,
anybody
this
to
is
make
not
under
court.
oath.
This
I'm
is
not
not-
making a statement under oath right now, am I?
Yes.
Okay, so I think as long as, I mean, we take a very simple position. We are not here to challenge allegations or statements or even if the allegations are tries to make a political connection out of it. It's not our job to challenge it. We're not here on some sort of some sort of a movement to make a statement about anything or to clear our names. I'm just answering questions that you all are fielding. And I think the issue is whether or not the statements ultimately said to be attributable to him may have an impact in Australia. How the Australian government or the Australian immigration or authorities or even the Australian courts may view or might view these so-called allegations that he has said certain things, we don't know. And I'm not at liberty to say or to speculate how they might view it. I can only say that it will have some bearing, and I think that's very obvious, isn't it? It will have some bearing. Whether ultimately they will give it any weight or not, we have no idea. Okay.
So, do you mean you didn't know whether he reject all the offer, right? I mean,
We can't say.
We can't say. Not that I don't know. I'm not willing to say, or I'm not in a position to say, because that is a matter of discussion between me and my client.
so maybe he will accept some offer.
I can't say. Okay.